Okay. Chapter 16. The Cactus. Oh, what a regal cactus crowned with purple prickly pears. Shortly after breakfast the next morning, we stuffed our belongings into our backpacks and headed home. Abuelita Remedios was sitting at the table drinking coffee when she went into the kitchen. Sitting next to her hand on the table was a small pile of tiny homemade envelopes. She took them and placed them in my hand when I sat next to her. Something to get you started, she said, closing my hand over them. What are they? I took the sealed rectangles and turned them over to read the hand-printed labels. Semillitas, from my garden to yours, Abuelita said. I looked through the assortment of seed packets she had put together for me and almost burst into tears. I'm going to miss you, Abuelita Remedios. Me too, my grandmother said, pulling me close for a hug. I'm going to miss you too, Delia chimed in. Abuelita let me go long enough to hug Delia. I put the seed packets in the left pocket of my shorts and wiped my eyes. I wish we could have stayed longer. Our grandmother pulled a handkerchief out of her dress pocket and dabbed at her eyes. I know, me too. Don't be sad, Abuelita. Pita squeezed in with us and put her arms around our grandmother's neck. We love you. You're the bestest grandma ever. You are, Abuelita. That's why we love you so much. Velia let out a disgusted groan and rolled her eyes. She looked down at Pita and declared, You're such a kiss-up. Abuelita smiled. Oh, I know you love me, Pita, just like I know you love your mother. That's why it's important you get back there. She's going through a very difficult time right now. She needs you as much as you need her. She patted our cheeks, kissed our foreheads, and caressed our hair before she continued. Besides, now that you know where I live, you can start visiting me more often. Only maybe you can drive with your mama next time. You and your mama are welcome to come stay with me whenever you want for as long as you want, especially at Christmas time. Oh, yes, we'll bring presents and eat tamales and stay up every night, exclaimed Pita, not at all sounding like a kiss-up, but like her true, generous self. The Pita that Mama knows and loves and babies more than the rest of us. That sounds like a plan, Abuelita Remedios said, hugging each of us in turn again. We'll do that then, every Christmas, every holiday, but especially in the summertime. I hated to break up this moment, but it was getting late. We should get going, I whispered. Immediately after breakfast, Abuelita drove us in an old four-door ranch truck. She hadn't driven in almost 10 years, she said. Mostly she kept the vehicle for emergencies. Everything that needed to be driven to and from the hacienda was taken care of by either Roberto or his son Arturo, who loved to go into town. But today she decided to drive us to the border herself because there was only room in the pickup for 6 people. Her driving was a little rusty, which made for an interesting ride, but sometimes she'd veer out of her lane for a second or slow down so much she'd be driving way below the speed limit. But all in all, I felt confident in her ability to get us to the frontera safely. During the ride, the girls were somber, almost distant, but Abuelita Remedios was full of spunk. She talked all the way up Highway 57, giving us advice about how to handle questions we might encounter with our adventures in Mexico. She didn't believe in lying. It was against it, in fact. But she also didn't feel we should go around telling people things that would make them think we were fibbing. Nowadays, people are too cynical and don't believe in magic anymore, Abuelita Remedios said as she drove us down the road. Best to keep all those supernatural experiences to yourselves. No use trying to convince people of things they can't understand, much less believe. It was good advice, and we all agreed Mama would be the only one who would ever believe us. Because, to be honest, if I hadn't lived it myself, I wouldn't have believed it either. Halfway up to the border, Abuelita stopped to buy us new outfits before we drove on. She said she didn't want Mama to see us dressed like... Anybody? Limosneras. What does that mean? Oh, thank you. And think we'd taken to begging for food in the streets, food in the streets during our stay in Mexico. We slipped into our new clothes in the dressing room of a quiet little dress shop on the outskirts of Monclova. Pita was especially joyful to be wearing a new dress, although she rejected the one with a silky red bow at the collar, saying she was too old to wear moños. Moños? What does that mean? Oh, okay. Thank you. We all smiled gratefully and thanked our grandmother when she pulled the tags off our new outfits, handed them to the sales lady, and said, They'll be wearing these out. After the morning's shopping, Abuelita Remedios bought us some lunch. We stood on the sidewalk on Avienda 4 in Monclova eating taquitos off an old vendor's cart. Looking around the busy streets with their modern buildings, I thought Mama would be enamored of all of this place. Monclova looked as beautiful as and as cultured as any large city in the United States. I relaxed in a jamaica dusted with chili powder from a tall fruit cup and told myself that we would move here if Papa never came back and we lost the house. Soon after that bittersweet moment with our newfound grandmother, we got back on Highway 57 north and drove straight through Sabinas and Nueva Rosita. We stopped in Allende for some aguas frescas and little help here. Puestecito. Come on, guys. All right, we'll just go, we'll roll with.
Yes.
Huh? Karen said yes. I said it right. Yes. Thank you. But other than that, we stayed on the road. We arrived in Piedras Negras at 3 in the afternoon. The sun cast golden rays lazily upon the quieting city from its low point in the sky. Abuelita pulled over and parallel parked in front of the Santuario de Nuestra Señora de Guadalupe. Felt like I was on Nacho Libre right there. She got out of the vehicle and stretched her legs as she looked around. Now who wants a raspa? She asked, eyeing us with mischief in her eyes. Well, come on, don't be shy. After Abuelita Remedios treated us to raspas and campechanas? Thank you. Those delicious puff pastries we all loved so much, we walked back to the truck. We sat in the pickup and tried to enjoy our last moments with our beloved grandmother. Well, girls, it's time to say goodbye. I wish I had a green card or even a worker's visa, but I haven't had much need for those things, not with my own place to run. So this is as far as I can go with you. You'll have to take a taxi across here, Abuelita said, reaching into her purse and handing me a small wad of American bills. Where are your papers? We'll have to show them to the driver. The question hit like a hit to the temple, jostled something loose in my head, and suddenly my heart was in a panic. Papers? Wait a minute, did any of you bring your birth certificates? I know I didn't. I'd run out of the house in such a panic to stop Juanita driving away that the thought never occurred to me. Yeah, Juanita said, I got all of them. They're in Vilia's backpack. Vilia put her hands on the bench seat next beside Juanita and pulled herself into her seat. No, they're not. What do you mean? Where are they? Abuelita asked, turning sideways to give Vilia her full attention. Juanita stopped eating her raspa. What are you talking about? I gave them to you. You were getting ready. I sat them right there on your dresser next to your clothes. Juanita, Vilia whined, I never saw them. You mean you didn't bring them? Juanita asked, pulling a hand to her forehead and shaking her head in disbelief. Oh my God, I can't believe this. Okay,